Hi, this is Coach Shawnee Lavender, the Conscious Moms Coach. And today's topic is about how to support your child to have positive relationship with money and abundance and prosperity, and at the same time, helping them to live in a really respectful way and simple way in our consumer culture. Now, that's mostly the US. However, consumer culture is not limited to the United States. It is something that has its tendrils in a lot of other countries and communities. So if you notice that this is something that you're striving to live simply, and sometimes you feel that that's a struggle to do that, and there's a lot of messages to your child to consume, that they're a consumer rather than a person, things like that. This video, I think, will be for you. And for me, that definitely is part of my path. My husband and I, we do appreciate good material things, good quality things. And we also strive to live simply. We want to have a small footprint on our planet, if that's even possible in a Western consumer society. However, that's something that we're mindful of. And we say, that's one of our values. And what I know from my own background, and this is part of what informs this video and this journey, because I'm going to be sharing today about our experience as a way simply to offer you some ideas of some things you might want to experiment with, and things that you can try on and see how would that work in your family. Would that get you to a place of where you want to be in supporting your child to live in a certain way in this world? So a bit of background. For me, I know that I grew up with, as most of us have, I grew up inheriting beliefs about many things, and some beliefs around money did not serve me. And I have worked very consciously and intentionally over the past couple decades to shift those beliefs so that they do serve me, and that I can be in right relationship with money and with energy and with prosperity and with community and simplicity, all those things, because to me, those are all intertwined. And so I was really aware that I did not want to pass on some of the negative money beliefs that I had to my daughter. And at the same time, I did want to pass on to her some beliefs and some values about how to live in this world in a way that is as respectful of all the other living beings and the planet, which makes itself home for us. That's really important to me. So it's like, how do I put these two together? How do I put them together in a way that helps her come from a place of strength and truth with money, rather than, again, just these beliefs about, what it is, and it's, what it is, what it isn't, what it can do, what it can't. So that's sort of the background to the story. So that hopefully will give you some idea. I'm going to take a drink and then I'm going to continue. So I wanted my daughter, who is now almost 7 years old, and my husband wanted this too, but I'm going to speak from my personal experience so he can speak for himself. I wanted her to have a more neutral relationship emotionally with money and prosperity, and really have helpful beliefs. And I wanted her to really be able to gladly and joyously attract money, use it, and enjoy what it can do for us. And I wanted her to really be able to, and want to, not just be able, but to also choose to generously share money and use it for the greater good. So that's some of the values that I was desiring to transfer and share with my daughter. So, what I noticed since having our daughter, we have accumulated more stuff. Now, again, we live in a Western society, so United States. And so at some levels, we don't live very simply. We have things like running water, we have abundant electricity, things like that. Um, However, my husband and I had really made a conscious decision since coming together as a couple. We had combined two households, and at the beginning of our relationship, we had items in a storage unit that didn't fit in our home, and we were like, "We're paying for that. What are we doing?" So we made a commitment when we moved into the last home that we had before where we are now, that we weren't going to have more stuff than could fit in our home. Now, that didn't mean we were going to cram it to the rafters either, but we said, okay, we're simplifying, we're downsizing. So we did that. So we only had what fit in our home and comfortably, and it was really a haven for us. And it's a place, that felt really nurturing for us, and the things we had were beautiful and utilitarian. So it was like they served purposes. They weren't just there for ornamentation. However, what I noticed as our daughter came along is the stuff went up, right? The stuff was more. Now, some of it we brought into our lives consciously. Some of it people gave to us. Some of it just comes to us. To give a quick example, like when my daughter goes to the dentist, one of the things that they get at the end of the dental visit is they get a little token, a little coin that they can put in a vending machine, like a typical, old bubblegum machine that you used to use at the grocery store. You'd put a nickel in and you'd turn the thing, get a gumball out. But they have prizes in there. So she gets that. She gets a prize of her choosing, and she gets a balloon. So that's the kind of stuff I'm also talking about. So stuff that comes into her life that way, stuff that gets handed down from other friends, stuff that relatives and friends give her as gifts, stuff that she collects out in nature, art projects from school, all those minutia, all that stuff. And for me personally, what I notice is that when that stuff is accumulating, I find my energy is being drained by some of that, because it's just, then it's like, oh, there's stuff to move and shovel around at home, like, where are we going to put that stuff? So there's that time that gets spent dealing with the stuff. And there's just a lot of energy around the stuff. And I don't always like the energy that's around the stuff. So that's one of the things I noticed. I also noticed, this is earlier when my daughter was about between 3 and 4 years old, that we had some interactions around buying things that didn't leave me feeling happy, didn't leave my daughter feeling happy. Now, these could range from sometimes, say, at the grocery store, she might want something that I didn't want to purchase. Maybe it was just an item that it was type of food that I was like, even though we shop at natural food stores, and there's a much smaller amount of junk, so to speak, than at a conventional grocery store, there's still things I don't want to buy. And so I'd notice that would happen. Or we'd go to a store, to a children's store, and maybe we went there to buy something for her or to look around. But there would inevitably be times when she and I would be in disagreement about stuff, getting stuff. And I just didn't like the way those things happened. So that was the second observation I had. The third thing that came up, and my husband and I talked about this, was we believe that for her to be able to grow into an adult who has money mastery and has a right relationship with money and has her own values around stuff and money, that she needs to practice that. She can't turn into an 18-year-old or a 21-year-old or a 30-year-old and all of a sudden figure it out. She benefits from a lifetime of practice of figuring that out. And so we wanted to start early on with her actually being able to literally practice a relationship with money. And so that was something that we wanted to do. And she needed that active, powerful role. So that's all the background. And so I want to pause for a second and see if there are questions around that, or if you just say, yeah, that's some of what we want too. So let me just pause for a second. So out of all these ideas and these desires and these observations, my husband and I came up with some specific practices. Now, what I'm going to share, I'm going to do my best. I have them organized on my notes here. Some of them are specifically around money. Some of them specifically focus on stuff. And some of them are more focused on mindset. So I'm going to go through those, hopefully in groups, and explain to you what we've done and talk a little bit more about each of those. So on the money front, let me share that piece first. So we decided to give our daughter an allowance and it's a weekly allowance, and it's based on her age, and it's not tied to chores. So when she was 4, she got $4 a week for her allowance. When she was 5, she got $5 a week. She is now 6. We don't add cents to it. She's almost 7, so she still gets $6 a week right now. She's looking forward to getting 7. And so that is our practice for now. That's her weekly allotment. And again, it's not tied to doing any chores. She does do things at home and she contributes in the household. That's not something, though, that she gets money for. The money is given to her each Monday, regardless of what she's been doing at home. Now, she can earn extra money sometimes. So when she's really wanting something or she wants some money, we will talk to her about, well, let's look at some ways that you could earn some money. So we talk to her about things she could do at home. We talk with her about things she could do to earn money in the neighborhood, things like that. But as far as her steady income, she gets a weekly allowance that's based on her age. We also have, probably should have brought it here so I could show it, but I didn't. She has a piggy bank that we bought, and it's got 3 compartments. It's an invisible piggy bank, but imagine, if you will, this 3-compartment piggy bank, and it has a slot for save, another slot for spend, and another slot for share. So save, spend, and share. So it is encouraging her by its design to be one that she apportions money to each place. Now, she gets to fill that up as she chooses. So when we give her money for her allowance, we don't say, that a third of it needs to go in each one. She goes through phases. So she went through a phase very much focused on saving. So she put a lot of money in there. She went through a phase of spending. So she puts a lot of money in there. And she puts money in sharing as well. And she takes it out and shares that. But so that's her money. The allowance is her money to distribute into her piggy bank as she chooses. So that's where she has that full power of what is she going to do with that. She also has her own bank account, so her own savings account. And that primarily at this time is mostly for savings. However, what happens is what we do is when she wants to make a large purchase, which at this time has included, she bought herself a bike. So we will say, okay, well, let's look at what do you have in your savings account? How much money do you have in there? And so then we'll take her to the bank and say, okay, we're going to take this money out. We bought the bike with our money, of course. And then we say, okay, then this is going to pay back. Here's how much the bike costs. So here's how much we're taking out of your bank account. Sometimes we'll actually have her take the money out, in cash and be able to then to spend that. So she bought some art supplies, a pretty hefty amount of art supplies, which is something she really wanted. And so she can pay for that then with her money that she had saved. So that's right now how the savings account is working. We'll see how that goes over time. She tends to like to put money in there usually right after her birthday. That's normally how it gets funded. She takes more of her big chunks of money and puts it in there and lets it sit. But she does go again through phases of, okay, let's make a deposit this month into that bank account. Another piece that relates to money, but this is also mindset, is that we involve her in charitable giving decisions. So at our House of Faith, we give money each week to feed the hungry. And so we invite her with the money that we give, that's out of our pocketbook, so to speak. We invite her to help, put that in the basket, take part in that. We, though, invite her, like, let's look at what do you have in your share part of your piggy bank. And so we'll ask her, what do you want to do with that? Where do you want to share it? Sometimes she'll give it to an animal or welfare organization. Sometimes she'll give it to our church. So she then gets a say in that. We also involve her in last year, for instance, at our church, they, not just last year, but regularly our church houses homeless women, and they stay there for a week at a time. And people in the community volunteer to cook meals for them, to drive them around, to stay overnight with them, to be companions for them. And so last fall, we made up goodie bags for those 12 women. And so our daughter, she created those and she put notes in those to the women. And so we collected items, shampoos, snack foods, deodorant, things like that, some personal hygiene items and other things. And so she helped create those. So that's not necessarily a money piece, but it is a piece that does involve money at times. And so she contributes like, oh, okay, yeah, I want to buy some of the things that go towards putting in those goodie bags. So those are some of the specific money actions that we've taken with her. And what I also want to say is that for me, what I've noticed is that has allowed us, she and I, to have more ease when we are doing shopping and we have one of those times of disagreement of, oh, I don't want to buy something, but it's something she wants to buy. Then I can talk to her and I can say, what money do you have with you? If she has money available to her and she has it with her, or she has it at home if we didn't plan. Usually we do our best to plan that, but we say, okay, well, is this something that you want to spend this money on? So just yesterday, I guess she and I were at the drugstore. I was getting some medicine for my cough, and I probably need to take more of it, right? And she saw some gum. I didn't want to buy gum. It's not my thing. It's like, yeah, she can have it. It's not a big deal, but I don't want to spend the money on that. So I said, yes, you can buy some gum. You've got some money. You can buy that. So you have to pay for that. And so she was like, okay, yeah, I want to do that. Great. Then she can do that. Sometimes she'll want a video that she wants to buy so she can watch it on her Kindle. And there'll be times where we'll say, well, do you have any money? Oh, no, I don't. All I have is my bank account. We don't use the bank account for just little purchases like that. Her piggy bank is empty. She'd already spent it or saved it. And so it's like, no, we're not going to buy that. Then you can wait. So she's then getting to learn about choices around, oh, if I spend money in this way, then I may not have it over here. Or, if I don't have some money and I really want something, then what can I do to create money? What can I do to get money? So it is really, I've noticed that it's helped us to have, she and I to have a different relationship about money. So we're not fighting around, oh no, I don't think that's a good purchase. And, I don't want to spend, it's not in alignment with my values, might be in alignment with hers. And so that gives her the power to say, yes, mom, this is in alignment with what I want. And then she can do that for better or for worse. Sometimes later she's like, oh yeah, I guess didn't want to do that. We got into going to Goodwill for a time, and she found that, wow, money at Goodwill goes a lot further than at a retail store. And so she got to see that, oh yes, if there's some things I'm wanting and maybe I don't have criteria about the quality of them or the newness of them, then maybe I want to go to Goodwill so I can get more of them. Because sometimes, if it's stuffed animals, she's into more, not always quantity. So that gives her that sense of power to be able to make her choices. And it frees me up to not fight with her about it, because it's like, oh, good, I'm still in alignment with mine. So even if I think, oh, I don't want to, that seems like a junky thing, I can talk with her about it. And I do sometimes still have those conversations, but I don't have that stress of, oh, I really don't want to spend it. And so I've got to convince her and, coerce her to not do it, or flat out say no. When there's something she really wants, it's like, if that's what you want to do and you have the money, go for it. So that has really been a helpful piece for us. It's something I've really enjoyed, having a different relationship. And I see it in her. I see her excitement about being able to choose and say, yeah, I want that. And I also see thoughtfulness in her about being able to say, yeah, let me think about that. Oh, I want this. And I've also talked about wanting this. So which do I want more? Can I get both? Do I really want both? So it helps her go through some thoughtfulness around spending and acquiring and her use of money. So I love that part of it. So let me shift over now to talk about the stuff piece. So she has a wish list, a paper wish list for things that she wants. So that is one of the ways that we encourage her to be able to speak her desires and have her wants and have things like, yes, I want this, even if ultimately she doesn't end up getting it or really wanting it in the long run. It gives her that chance to express that without that being shut down all the time. Because I think for me personally, that is a thing. I want her to have that ability to step into that juicy place of, I want and I'd love, and wouldn't this be great? In part because it's a creative place. It's like, oh yeah, what would you do with that? What would that bring to you? It's like, it allows her to really create her life in the way that she wants it. And I'm not saying that the stuff always does that for us. The stuff doesn't always give us those things. It's what we think it's going to bring us. But nonetheless, I like her to be able to play with that energy. And I want her to be able to continue to foster that imagination and that ability to say, wow, wouldn't this be awesome? Not just with stuff, but wow, wouldn't this kind of relationship be awesome? Wow, wouldn't it be awesome if, as human beings, we could live without polluting the planet at all? That's part of that generative creative process. And I believe if I'm shutting her down around getting stuff, and that's the context of it, that at some level, then she starts to curtail that dreamer part of her, that explorer, that expansive, imaginative part. And I don't want to curtail that. So to me, there's that balance. So the wish list for me, in my experience, allows her to have that wanting be full out We put it on the list. Yeah, cool. You want that? What color? What size? What would you name it? She wants fish or whatever. What would you name it? So it has a place. And then often what happens with many, many of the things is that's the place they live. They don't come to fruition because at some level, it wasn't really important to her. It was simply what was up for her in her childhood time of imagining and dreaming. So it's not something then again that needs to become this point of contention and conflict. It's like it's there, it lives on the list. Oh, she never got it. She doesn't mind. She looks back at it and like, yeah, okay. Or, oh yeah, that is something. I still want that. Okay, well then, is it something you want to really bring into being in your life? Let's look at how to make that happen. So wish list has worked really well for us. And it's a way sometimes, again, if she doesn't have money when we're somewhere, it's like, yeah, I hear you want that. So let's put it on your wish list. There's a place for it. It's not coming home with us today. It can come home in our brains and come onto the wish list. So that's been really helpful to us. My husband and I on the stuff front, we also do currently, because of her age, we currently do a periodic simplification of her stuff. So that means literally we go through her room probably 3, maybe 4 times a year, maybe quarterly, sometimes when it just gets, And so we go through and we sort through things that we have observed she's not playing with, she doesn't seem to care about anymore. Sometimes we'll bring those out. It's like, oh, this was something maybe it was too old for her when it first came to her. So maybe now we'll put it in a more prominent place in her room and see if she wants to play with it. We take stuff away, some of it permanently. So some of it, there's just the detritus that we go, oh, look, wrappers, trash, we recycle those things like that. But some of it is, okay, that's going on to our hand-me-down circle. That's clothes, or those are books that we are past using. So we will repurpose those. Sometimes they go away temporarily. So it's like, there's just right now, there's too many books on the shelves. We're not reading them. So let's take this hunk of them, let's put them in a box, and let's bring them back out later. Let's bring them back out in a different season. So we do that though, because for her, what we've noticed is at this age and this stage for her, usually if she sees something, then she wants it. She's like, oh yeah, I want to play with that, even if she hasn't played with it in months. So we don't find that involving her in that process at this point is productive. It makes it more of, oh no, everything stays in there. So we are mindful of it. And we definitely have had times where sometimes we've taken something out that then she goes, what, where's this and such? And she'll, we'll put it back out sometimes. But that's something that we have said that's part of our responsibility. That's something we're going to do to help keep the stuff level at a level that we're okay with, that we think supports her so she can use the things and enjoy the stuff that she does have, rather than it just being stuff that's taking up space. So that's what we do. We also, on the stuff front, we talk about money. We talk about choices and trade-offs when she shops, when we shop. So we talk about, this money we're using it for this. So we're not going to, we had a water pipe. I'm pointing because the water pipe was out there. We had a water pipe break recently. And so we had a big water bill and we had a repair. So we spent a lot of money on that we weren't anticipating. And so then we were also really mindful of, what, I don't want to go out and spend as much money as we might this week on groceries or on eating out. So we get to tell her about that, that, hey, this thing came up and yes, we could still do what we normally do. And yet we didn't want to do that. We wanted to offset it, not entirely, of course, because you'd have to go a month without groceries to pay for the repair. But, we said, yeah, so this is something we're mindful of. We just had a big spend. And so now we're going to conserve where we can. So we talk about those things. We have general conversations. We're not getting her into the minutia of, we don't want her to worry about money or have a sense that that's her responsibility to take care of family finances. However, we do want her to be aware of, yeah, this is something that we do as adults. We talk about, yeah, what choice really fits for us right now? What's appropriate for us today? We also use consignment stores. I talked about Goodwill earlier as well. And we show her, like at a consignment store, we show her how when we bring in stuff that we're no longer using and is not having an active role in our life, and we make it available to somebody else to purchase, then that gets us money. So we show her that. We take her to garage sales. So we help her see that there are different ways to bring money to you. There are different ways to bring stuff to you. It's not always a direct exchange of money. And so we're helping her see that there's a lot of different ways that you can bring things into your life. She loves to buy gifts for her friends. So it's like sometimes she buys brand new things at the toy store. And I notice me, I'll be like, oh, and she's like, I want to buy this thing for somebody. I'm like, okay, so that's how she uses sometimes her share money. She wants to spend. So it's like we have those conversations and we involve her at a level that says, we want you to be a part of these discussions and be thinking about, what do we do? What do you do? Why do you want to do it that way? Is there another way to do that? Recently, for instance, and we will continue hopefully to have through the summer lots of produce in our garden. And sometimes we sell that to neighbors. And she uses that, if she's the one actively selling and packaging things up, then she gets to keep that money. Also, though, we said, like recently, we have an abundance of tomatoes. We're not going to eat them all. I'm not available to can them right now or otherwise put them up. And so it's like, yeah, let's share these. So yesterday, that's what we did. We bagged up tomatoes and shared them with our neighbors, no cost. So we again, show her, yes, sometimes you can sell it to neighbors. Sometimes you give it to neighbors. There's just lots of different ways to interact with physical stuff, with money. And so we find value in that. And she enjoys that as well. Another thing we do with stuff is we say both yes and no to her requests. So we sometimes, it's like, okay, yes, we're going to do that. Just recently, she was wanting like juice packs at the grocery store. And we told her, we said, we've bought those before and pretty much they don't get drunk. They get half drunk and then the rest gets thrown out or it, sits in the refrigerator for a long time. So we said, we hear that you want those, but we're not going to buy those because they're not, they're not being used. That's not the way we want to see stuff. If it's something we use, then we'll talk about it. But if it's just, oh yeah, I like that thing, but I don't really use it. So we talk to her about that and why. So we do our best to, again, help her see the ways we think about making these decisions so that she knows how we're doing it and she gets to experiment with how she's going to do it as she grows up. So that, I think, covers the stuff side, at least as I wrote down in my notes. So let me shift over to the mindset. That'll be the last piece of what I'm going to share. And again, hope this will be useful to you. So on the mindset front, one of the things we've done, and this was even before we started giving her money for allowance, which we started her allowance when she was 4. So probably about 4.5 actually. So the allowance piece just started at 4.5. But this has been something we've been doing really since the very beginning of her life. At our evening meal, our dinner, we have a gratitude practice. We have a gratitude ritual. So we go around the table, either if it's just us, if it's just our family, or with friends or family, whoever else is eating a meal with us at that time. And we invite them, or we invite all of us to share something that we're grateful for that day. And so it can be one thing, it can be more than one thing, but that is a way of focusing on all the other ways that we believe we're rich. And we talk about it that way. We'll talk about wow, we are so blessed. We are so rich. We have so much. And we talk about there's different ways to have much. And so that focus on gratitude in general, and that gratitude almost always is for, of course, people, relationships, experiences, um, physical things in our physical world, whether it's the weather or the abundance of our garden or the rain that's falling, those kinds of, it's not stuff, it's other things that make our life really wonderful and rewarding. So we show that that's where our focus is. Wow, look how blessed we are. So we have that energy flowing through our family on a regular basis. We, on the mindset front, I talked about this a little bit earlier, so I'm just going to touch on it. We do imagine how exciting a certain purchase might be, or an event or something. So, it's like, oh, wow, won't this be great? Or we relive it. Like, we got to go to Costa Rica a couple of years ago, and we made a book about that experience, with photos and stories of the time. And so it's like, yes, look at, money allowed us to do that, and generosity of family members allowed us to do that. And so we appreciate that. And so we appreciate the physical stuff we have, the money we have, and the non-tangible things that we have. And so we really savor those things, and we tell stories and we talk about those. And again, we like, get the juice out of that, really enjoy it, even if it's just an imagined thing that we don't ever do. She does that sometimes in lead up to her birthday. She'll talk about, like, I want this kind of cake, and she ends up having something totally different, but we savor that experience of like, oh yeah, ooh, what flavor would it be? And oh, that would be so yum. And oh, what if we had it here and we taught, and so it's like, yeah, we have that experience right then and there, even if it doesn't materialize in the material world. We, on a mindset front, we are mindful of how we talk about wealth, poverty, richness, money, so that we are, as best we can, not creating falsehoods around, like, oh, those people over there, they're not very well off because they don't have stuff. Or these people who have money, boy, we really envy them because they have everything they need. No, we talk, we'll be like, yeah, so maybe they do have a lot of money, and wow, they have a nice new this or whatever. And you know what? There's a lot of other things. And so we'll ask her, we'll talk about, yeah, what are other things that are important to have in life? And it's like, oh yeah, family. Oh, I have great friends. I have people I love spending time with. We're healthy, things like that. So we don't shy away from those things, and we do our best to be open about how we talk about them, and share struggles and truths that we have, like, oh yeah, I know sometimes I look out and I think, gee, wouldn't it be great to have this new thing? And then I say, wow, I'm really actually grateful that I can borrow my neighbor's lawnmower and I don't need to have one. Isn't that wonderful that we have a neighbor that's so generous to do that? And so it's like, oh yeah, I didn't think about that. There's another way. I guess I don't need my own lawnmower, things like that. We talk about all forms of abundance. We tell stories. So again, we talk about being really rich, and we want her to feel prosperous, not just in a monetary sense. We want her to believe that, yes, she has the money to get what she absolutely needs, and even things that she wants. So it's not that we're going to not talk about money. We also, though, simply don't want abundance and prosperity to only have a connection with money. We want it to be connected to all the ways that abundance shows up in our lives and prosperity shows up, because that's what's true for us. Is, yes, all these forms of abundance matter and have value in our lives. And we also express gratitude for the money that comes to us. So yesterday, she and I were walking through a parking lot and I saw a penny and I was like, hey, look down there. And she was like, oh, she picked it up, and I was like, wow, look at, so now you have that to put in your piggy bank, and it was like, we don't judge it. It's like, it's a penny, oh, whatever. No, yes, it's money. And it does add up, and you can do something with it, and you can give it away, or you can throw it in a fountain, or you can keep it and use it and accumulate it. Doesn't matter. It's like, yes, this good thing came to me. Yes, this good thing of somebody, let me into traffic when there's traffic jam, they let me pull in. That's a gift. They're all gifts. So we really strive to look for how can we demonstrate that, there's a way to be and to appreciate all the goodness in life, not to get just hooked into money, and at the same time to value and appreciate what money can do for us and what we can do with it. So for us, that's what it's looked like. And I have noticed that it's made it easier for me. I haven't had as many stressful interactions with her around, again, those disagreements around purchases. I see her developing a mindfulness around acquiring things, giving things, spending money, saving money. So I see her doing that and getting some of that awareness now, and I'm sure it will continue to change as she grows. I like that, though. I'm seeing her, have that thoughtfulness, and she gets that practice so that as she grows up, it's not entirely new to her. It's not the first time she's had little bits of money or lots of money. She's like, oh, cool. Well, here's what I want to do with it. Here's what I want to be mindful of. So for us, these practices have helped us to break an inheritance of some of the negative money beliefs that my husband and I both had. At least we think, that's our sense for right now, is that she is developing some more healthy beliefs around money and abundance and prosperity and stuff that I think will serve her and help her live in right relationship on the planet as she grows. And it has made things easier in our family and more comfortable around stuff and around those conversations that parents and children do get involved in because of the nature of life, whether it's going shopping with your child or, figuring out what to spend family money on and, how to get holiday presents or things like that. It's really been helpful to us. So I'm going to pause again in a minute here and check comments. I do hope that this is helpful or useful to you. So let me just do a pause and then I'll circle back and close up here in a minute. So thank you for joining me for this conversation. Again, I hope it's been helpful, gives you some ideas, some things to play with. And if you want to converse with me about that, feel free to leave a comment and I am glad to connect with you offline and talk about what you shared. And again, you can find me on my YouTube channel. You can find me on Facebook in my community called the Conscious Moms Circle for moms and dads who are interested in parenting consciously and lovingly with their families. And you can find me doing these live videos as well. And again, thank you so much. And I want to tell you about some other exciting opportunities soon. But thanks for taking this time with me today.